Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Star Trek Lower Decks Season 4, Episode 2, I Have No Bones, Yet I Must Flee. This video is a part of a series of videos where I review episodes of Star Trek Lower Decks, so I have to start with the spoiler warning for Lower Decks up to Season 4, Episode 2. If you have not seen up to this episode, you will not want to watch this video, otherwise some things will be spoiled for you. So as I explained when I did my review for the first episode, which I hope you have watched already, but all good if you haven't, you can go check that out afterwards. I was originally going to record both my review for both episodes in one video, but I decided to split them up, but record them back to back and release them at the same time. So as I said, you can check that one out right away. But anyway, I thought each episode deserved its own video, so now I want to talk about episode 2, I Have No Bones, Yet I Must Flee. So I love this episode, and I'm going to be blunt up front. I like this better than the first one as well, even though I did really enjoy the two Vics. This one was better for me. This one sort of had more heart, and it also was equally as funny. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. So first of all, let me get into the Mariner storyline first, because I actually love that. I love the setup for this, that she overheard Ransom and Shaxx talking. First of all, let's talk about this Ransom and Shaxx scene where they're doing sort of aerobics, and they're wearing, by the way, the same exact outfits that Crusher and Troy wore when they were doing their sort of aerobic things. And those scenes were rightfully, and continue to be rightfully, heavily criticized, that they're sort of trying to find the right word for sort of gender stereotyping the only two women in the main cast and making them come off as like girly and they're wearing tight outfits to trying to make it sexy for all the guys watching it, and those scenes were rightfully criticized for that. And I like how they did it with the two strong men and put them in those same exact outfits, and they had them talking while they were doing like these aerobics things. It's a nice commentary, and it's a good parody as well, so enjoy that. And then but Mariner overheard while they were doing that silly thing, Ransom mentioned that something like she's not going to be my problem at all, and she took that to mean that he's going to demote her, and so this pisses her off, and so she goes off on a crusade to not to demote herself, to act out of character. Now I'm gonna be honest, when I first, and they got into her promotion in the previous episode, and how she didn't want to be promoted, and this is old hat. This is something that the show already handled. In fact, and handled it directly in an episode all the way back in season 1, where they did promote her and they made her a senior officer, and she was very miserable and she hated it, and they purposely promoted her in order to get her to quit because they knew she would hate it. And so I feel like it was almost repeating that, but the more I look at it, especially once I saw the whole episode, I see that it's not really the case. It's definitely a different dynamic in this situation. Yeah, you are dealing with the same thing, that Mariner hates being promoted and she's trying to get herself demoted. That is old hat. The whole what was that? That was the episode when he won sensors. You must realign your sensor. That was hilarious. Anyway, so, yeah, at first I was worried it would just be repeating those beats, but I don't think it does. It goes in a different direction, because they're not making her a senior officer, they're just making her a lieutenant junior grade, and they're not doing it to get her to quit. They generally think she should succeed, and they want her to succeed. And in fact, I love Ransom's attitude, and of course it goes along with his arrogance about how I'm better than those other dumb commanders, that the other commanders didn't give her a shot, and they didn't believe in her, and that's why they just demoted her. And it introduced a very interesting dynamic, I think, that it was also a very funny dynamic, where she thought she was getting demoted, so she was purposely acting up and trying to get demoted, where he was trying to do everything he could to not demote her. And so he would just say things like, oh yes, she's my best person, oh I believe in you. And the more he would say stuff like that, the more pissed off she would get. And that was funny, actually. And then you had that random, I can't remember the dude's name, but the random ensign dude who was just like really really sort of shy and like, I don't know what you have going on here, but just leave me out of it. And how he was sort of caught in the middle of this posturing. And I thought it was great, and I love how the concept of again, this is what Lower Decks does a lot. It takes like an episode from Star Trek and presents it like it's an everyday occurrence and it happens all the fucking time. Now sometimes that irritates me, but sometimes I think it's hilarious and I love it. And this is a case where I think it's hilarious and I love it. And this is a case where they even call the menagerie, referring to the episode Menagerie, and could also reference the episode The Cage. There was also an episode of the animated series as well where the Enterprise crew got put in a zoo. That was more analogous to what's going on here, although, because this is just a zoo and menagerie where people come in and watch, see the animals in the zoo, which is not what the episode The Cage was about. It was a bit more... It was more complex than that, but it's more taking its terms from the animated series episode, but the Menagerie is the more well-known episode, so that's the one they're going to reference directly. But I thought it was hilarious how she calls it the Menage, and and she shows up, and I saw this in the trailers that she was on this mission wearing like a workout outfit, and I was like, what the hell is she in like a workout outfit? But now it makes perfect sense. And she's doing everything to get under Ransom's skin, calling him oh, Jackie and I are good on equal terms socially. It's not right, Jackie. Oh god. That was so hilarious. But anyway, or maybe his first name isn't Jack. I don't remember what it is. Anyway, and then of course they get to the menagerie and they had that, the alien guy. Oh, we always mistake humans. Apparently, I love how they say it happens all the time, that they're always mistaking humans, but once they find out they're part of Starfleet, they want to comply legally, and so they let them, so they're there to collect the humans. And then, you see the Mootsie. I love this thing. I love this thing. It is so cute. And yet, even though it's like this vicious monster, and again, and the trailer kind of gave this away, but I didn't really mind that very much. And I just still think it was even funnier seeing in the context where they're just like, when they saw the Mootsie free running about, and the guy was like freaking out. The curator was like, "Oh my God, we're all gonna die!" And they're like, "What is this cute little, a really cute little thing going Mootsie?" And it goes in the animal, goes into the other cage where they had the vicious, try eating. Oh my God, scary animals, and just goes up and instantly sucks it dry. And Mariner's reaction to that, going, "Holy fuck!" So funny. It was so hilarious. And and the fact that they're running from this, and Mariner and Ransom are like arguing over their complaints and working it out with the other guy. And by the way, like the scene where, Mariner was like going docking in the station, but she went like super fast in order to try to piss Ransom off, and the guy's like, I need a change of pants. I need to replicate myself new pants. And then later when the Mootsie was going after him, trying to attack them, I was like, oh, so much for my new pants. Oh god, I thought that was hilarious. And then I gotta be honest, I did believe that Mariner was responsible. Like, that was my first thought, that she did release Mootsie because she thought, oh, it's this just cute little thing, and that she would do it to piss Ransom off. And so I was with Ransom, almost, like, from his perspective. Like, I immediately thought it was her, but then when she said it wasn't, and they had that sincere sort of reconciliation where they explained their situation, and they sort of made up, and she said, I did not release Mootsie, and he's like, I believe you. I was with him there too. I believed her. I was like, oh, clearly she didn't. And I like how they pointed fingers to the curator guy, and he's like, no, why would I do this? And they're like, oh, maybe you don't even have bones. And then of course Mootsie pops in and just sucks him dry, like, no, he did have bones, all right. Oh god, like, that's such a horrific scene, and you think I shouldn't really find it funny, but I do. And I can't help but thinking that Mootsie is so cute. Like, this is probably my new favorite character next to Knick Knack from was that his name, Knick Knack? I'm pretty sure, from the holodeck episode last season. By the way, we need to see Knick Knack return. It must happen. Make it happen. Anyway, this is now my new favorite character. But I don't know if Mootsie needs to return, but he could. He could. I wouldn't be opposed to it. But anyway, and so they're like, they trap it in the room, and they're like, oh, thank God it's trapped in the control room. And the station starts spiraling. And like, that was so, it was a little bit intense, but also hilarious. Like, I was really engaged with the storyline, and then of course the Ransom's brilliant solution is to have Mariner punch all his teeth out. I think there's probably easier way for him to remove teeth, especially in the 24th century. But it was hilarious. He was like, punch me hard, that's an order. She's like, all right, and just starts beating the shit out of him, and he's like, yeah, do it some more. It was so funny. And then they use the teeth, to lure Mootsie back into his cage, and they save the station. And they're like, oh, and they made some comment about, oh yeah, they always think the humans are the issues, and it's not us, we're not the problem. But then we find out that the two humans in the exhibit were the ones that let Mootsie free. And I like how Ransom says, oh, maybe we really are the most dangerous game, which is a nice callback to the episode title from season 3. One of my favorite episode titles, if not one of my it's not one of my favorite episodes, was one of my favorite episode titles, The Least Dangerous Game, which is a play off of the short story The Most Dangerous Game, where humans hunt other humans. That's when Boimler was being prey to that big scary looking dude. But anyway, so yeah, that was a nice callback. So yeah, I enjoyed that storyline. Now, before I get into the Rutherford Tendi stuff, I want to backtrack a bit and talk about the ending of the previous episode and the beginning of this episode, which seems to be setting up for a ongoing storyline this season, which was mentioned in the trailers. And I actually love that. I love that they're slowly building towards that. That's not something Lower Deck's really done before. And I hope that's not just resolved in one episode. I hope it becomes sort of a long thing, like throughout the season, that slowly builds and is slowly paid off and isn't just instantly paid off. That's my hope. But I'm intrigued. And I think it's actually hilarious. So the episode previous, we got the scene at the end of the episode that showed the Klingons, And I had that Klingon from the Which Jews episode. And now people are like, oh my god, they killed him off. And some people, well, maybe he isn't dead, and maybe he is. I don't know. I think it would be a shame if they killed him off. But it was a funny scene because the Klingons were being so stereotypical Klingon and being like, I will kill you all! Do you want to have lunch? Like, in the way they're talking. So that was a funny scene. But I loved the scene in this episode even more with the Romulans because it was way more over the top. It was just like, it took the trait that Romulans are known for, being scheming and deceptive, and like ranked it up to like 100. It just really overdid it. And it was so hilarious. You can't scheme to kill the commander. I'm scheming to kill the commander. Oh, don't make me laugh. You're scheming. Like, oh, God. It was just so hilarious, and how over the top the whole scheming, deceptive Romulan bit was. And then, of course, that ship was destroyed. So I am very curious to see where they go with this. So now, let me get to the Tendi Rutherford stuff, which I also loved. By the way, I loved this storyline. So it was mentioned at the end of the previous episode, they all got promoted, all of the lower deckers except for Rutherford. And it's funny because I was thinking to myself, like, if anyone deserved to get promoted, it would be Rutherford. Definitely more so than the other lower deckers, because he like directly saved the ship on several occasions, and that is addressed at the end of the episode, and that made me so happy. It made me so happy because at first I was like, this doesn't really make sense. It was kind of silly that he didn't get promoted and the others did, but then the end of the episode totally justifies this in the most hilarious way possible. So first of all, God, I'm trying to remember the guy's name. I just watched this episode again to try to remember his name, but it slipped me again. It's like Vinix or something. Hold on, I might have to look this up. The engineer who was showing up Rutherford repeatedly in this episode, and he would like say his name. It reminded me of the way that Jerry Seinfeld would always go Newman like that. He would go like Phoenix or whatever his name is. That was so hilarious, especially the fact that they made it clear that Rutherford had no idea who this guy was and never met him before in his life, and then all of a sudden he was going Phoenix like repeatedly throughout the episode. I thought that was hilarious. And of course he was, I think the trope though did get a little bit old, that Rutherford came up with this brilliant invention and then Phoenix or whatever it is did one better. But it was kind of funny. Maybe a little bit repetitive, but I did like it. I enjoyed that he was trying to get promoted so that he could be with his friends, because he felt like he was being abandoned by them. Now, the storyline with Boimler going to different rooms, wasn't a huge fan of that. I am glad they're getting out of that hallway, but the hallway still exists, so I'm still going to have an issue with the hallway. I always talked about that in previous episodes. I hate that hallway. I think it doesn't make any sense. There's no reason ensigns should be sleeping in the hallway on a 24th century ship. I don't care how minor it is. I think that's total bullshit. But, anywho, it's anti-Star Trek. But, forgetting that, at least we're getting away from that hallway. I think the thing with Boimler going to room and they're being like, it's the 21st century. They're gonna have soundproof walls. It's a fucking spaceship with holes capable of withstanding space. He's not gonna be able to hear the holodecks and people talking to him directly. And I suppose, it's the lower decks, which a lot of things is being silly, and I just have to suspend disbelief and just go with it. But stuff like that, I don't know. It's just is more of a barrier for me to suspend disbelief for. You might think that's illogical or whatever, but I don't know. It is what it is. Because they would have soundproof walls. I'm sorry, they would. And the whole thing with the light coming through, like, that bothered me at first until again, the end resolved this with the gag where Rutherford just, oh, you just turned the thing. which I thought was hilarious. So I wasn't a huge fan of that pointless side plot, but they didn't really focus on it much. So then we get the resolution where, Tendi, and we saw the scene, part of it from the trailer, and I thought it was hilarious in the trailer, and I thought it was hilarious here, where where she was like, told him, I'm your superior officer, stand at attention, and he does, and like, you're going to be my best friend, and we're going to hang out and have this. That is an order! He's like, yes, ma'am! God, and I love, by the way, I haven't mentioned how much I love the fact that they're promoting them. This was hinted at in the trailers, and I was like, please let it be true. And it is. And I talked about this in previous seasons, that they can't let them stay ensigns forever, unlike poor Harry Kim. Which, they got promoted in the episode that was about Voyager, which is kind of, I think, again, kind of a jab at the fact that poor Harry Kim never got promoted. But anyway, so I love the fact that they're promoted. And, this was such a good scene. And I think they kept Rutherford an ensign for this one episode just so they could have this scene, because it's a good scene. It's worth it, where she was like, I order you to be my friend. I thought that was really funny. But then, he reveals, again, drops the bomb that makes it all make sense of why he wasn't promoted, and sort of, because I thought that was dumb at first, but then it totally alleviates that by him saying, oh yeah, I turned him down promotion like 2 or 3 times already. They were going to promote me that for this time I saved the ship, or that other time I saved the ship. And I love this. I think this is one of the best scenes where Tendi just goes to, it's just like, he's like, oh, well, why don't you just ask to get promoted for those other things you did before? And he's like, no, that's not how engineering works. And it's just like, hey, pull-ups, can you promote Rutherford for that time he saved the ship? I think the time they removed the hull or whatever, and he's like, oh yeah, sure, and just grabs the pit from Vinix or whatever his name is and throws it to Rutherford. Brilliant! It's brilliant. Total gold. Absolutely loved that. And again, as I said, yeah, it makes it make sense why Rutherford wasn't promoted, because he had already turned down promotion on multiple occasions. All he had to do was ask. Because as I said, like, he should be, out of all of them, he's the one that deserves the promotion the most. And they acknowledge that by saying all he has to do is say, hey, can I get that promotion? They're like, sure, here you go. Oh God, I love that. And then of course Rutherford and Boimler go off to be roommates, and I'm assuming that Mariner and Tendi are going to be roommates. We're going to see how this goes, but absolutely excited about Lower Decks this season. Great start. So my rating out of 10 for I Have No Bones, but I Must Flee, out of 10, is going to be a 9. Excellent. I think this is a really, really good episode. It's got a lot of heart. It's got a lot of funny jokes. It's got a lot of character stories to it. And it made sense. It justified the whole Rutherford thing. It made it work. It justified why he wasn't promoted. And it sort of brought these characters. It's just, God, I'm so looking forward to this season. I just really am. Hopefully it can maintain this high. Maybe if it dips a little bit, that's okay, just as long as it doesn't get too fillery. But I don't think it will. I have faith. of the heart. Anyway, that is it for my review of Lower Decks Season 2. She'll be back next week, Episode 2 of Season 4. I'll be back next week to cover Episode 3 of Season 4, so be sure to check that out. I'm also covering the show Ahsoka, Star Wars show, great Star Wars show, week to week, as well as retro reviews for Star Trek The Next Generation, which are on hold for the next 2 weeks, but I will be back soon with more reviews for Season 1 of TNG, and also covering many other shows and many other videos as well, so be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that, and thanks a lot for watching.